Welcome to Early Nights. Soon to be the number one sleep resource on the planet, I am your host, Andre Joseph Dybko. Welcome to the show. The mission of Early Nights is to help you fall back in love with sleep by restoring the quality of your life one early night at a time. So, this week we're going to be continuing to go through parts of the book Why We Sleep, written by Matthew Walker, PhD, who's considered the godfather of sleep research and science. I'm going to go through a specific subject on the relationship between caffeine and sleep pressure. Okay, so chapter 2 highlights this really well. I'm going to read a part of it so that you can get a gist of how the caffeine that you're drinking might be affecting the quality of your rest. So, chapter 2 is called Caffeine, Jet Lag, and Melatonin, Losing and Gaining Control of Your Sleep Rhythm. Okay, we'll go back to subjects like jet lag in the future. Really want to hone on caffeine just because it's so prevalent right now. Okay, let's see. Sleep pressure and caffeine. Your 24-hour circadian rhythm is the first of two factors determining wake and sleep. The second is sleep pressure, and at this very moment, a chemical called adenosine is building up in your brain, and it will continue to increase in concentration until every waking minute that elapses. The longer you're awake, the more adenosine will accumulate. Think of adenosine as a chemical barometer that continuously registers the amount of time elapsed since you woke up this morning. One consequence of increasing adenosine in the brain is increasing your desire to sleep. And I would argue a lot of people go to sleep because they feel like they should or they have to, and not because they want to. Simply put, we are interrupting that natural sleepiness feeling. One consequence of adenosine in the brain increases your desire to sleep. This is known as sleep pressure and is the second force that will determine when you feel sleepy. And thus, you should go to bed using a clever dual action effect. High concentrations of adenosine simultaneously turn down the volume of wake promoting regions in the brain and turn up the dial on sleep inducing regions. As a result, that chemical sleep pressure, when adenosine concentrations peak, an irresistible urge to slumber will take hold. The feeling of, I have to go to bed. I want to, I would rather go to bed than stay up on my phone. It happens to most people after 12 to 16 hours of being awake. You can, however, artificially mute the sleep signal of adenosine by using a chemical that makes you feel more alert and more awake: caffeine. Caffeine is not a food supplement, rather, caffeine is the most widely used and abused psychoactive stimulant in the world. It is the second most traded commodity on this planet after oil, which is wild. The consumption of caffeine represents the longest and largest unsupervised drug studies ever conducted on the human race, perhaps rivaled only by alcohol to this day. Isn't that mind blowing? And so, to just simplify again, one of the reasons why when we hit the pillow, our mind is racing, while we're not winding down, why we can't sleep deeply, is because the caffeine that we're consuming throughout the day is interfering with the receptors to bind to adenosine. For those of you who are familiar with diabetes, insulin is what binds, insulin receptors are what get the sugar into the cell, right? And so when people have type 2 diabetes, they're having issues where sugar can't get into the cell because the receptor is not functioning properly. And we're having the same thing here with sleep. And so when caffeine has a 7 to 12 hour half life, meaning you still have half the amount of caffeine in your system 7 to 12 hours later, what is that doing to the quality of your sleep? Now, we all know those people. I can drink, 2 cups of espresso before bed and fall asleep. I can, have a cup of black coffee after lunch, doesn't affect me. Well, there's plenty of people who it is affecting, and they are suffering because of it. And then those people who are consuming it and still sleeping, are you actually getting the most recovery that you could? I would argue no. I would argue if you're having that cup of coffee after dinner, you are losing your body's ability to go into the deepest levels of REM sleep. And at those deepest levels, go through the research of Dr. Doug Lisle, Matthew Walker, and you're going to find that without those deepest levels of sleep, your brain is not able to clean your brain, to remove the amyloid plaque, which is the plaque that builds up in your brain that leads to Alzheimer's disease, dementia, and all these mental decline issues. There's a lot of things that have been ignored in the health industry because we're focused on food and supplements and exercise and go, 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 and burning ourselves, working, all this stuff. We need to come back to the basics. We need to learn how good you can feel by properly recovering. Now, does this mean you can never have caffeine? Of course not. If you have a good relationship with something, there's no need to completely cut it out. But we do need to acknowledge, like an addict, if we're having an unhealthy relationship with caffeine. And I'm actually going to show you exactly what that looks like. Go down, sub below, watch it glow. The button will actually glow. But because next week I'm going to be going through how I got addicted to the caffeine, but especially coffee. I had never really drank coffee, and I got severely addicted to caffeine. So if you want to learn more about that, how I got addicted, as well as how to overcome that addiction or how to minimize the health implications that can come with coffee, caffeine, etc., sub to the channel. We're going to be checking in next week. We upload a video every Tuesday at 7 a.m. Just so you know, every single Tuesday, 7 a.m. So get ready for next week. And I want you guys to chill out on the caffeine and stay rested.